This episode of Hak5 brought to you by GoDaddy.com, Netflix.com, and Sharpshootin' Snubs. Now with less recoil.
After hearing all the crazy stories about Phreaknic, it was time to make a Hak5 road trip and see what it's all about. We had fun. We made a few new friends, and we're thankful the cameras weren't around at the parties, for the most part. So, in Hak5 tradition, we bring you a sampling, if you will, of this year's Phreaknic, starting with an incident response switchblade and some software-defined radio. Check it out.
So Russell, tell me about this U3 incident response tool.
Okay, well basically, how I kind of came up with the idea was I was working for a company that had a lot of remote sites, and there were places I couldn't get to easily. So I had these incident response standards I had to meet from the parent company. So I had to have something that was easy for like the guys out on remote sites to use if there was a problem, crapware on a machine, whatever. So I developed I saw the Hak5 switchblade first, and I said, well, man, that's really great.
If only it were white hat.
Yeah, exactly. And what else can I do with this? The delivery mechanism, what I thought was brilliant to use a USB response or a USB device for it. So I decided to start writing just a simple batch file, DOS commands. What are the things I would do if I was sitting down on a machine that I thought had been owned?
Right.
Just go through, like look at the ARP tables, look at the IP configuration of the machine, what kind of process is running on the machine, and that's kind of how I came up with it.
And like any grid hacker, it's just taking the stuff that you normally do and then just automating it to make your job easier.
Exactly.
That's what we do.
It's a system administration tool,
So what kind of stuff does it do?
Basically, it runs through, it grabs basically about 4 sets of information from the machine. It grabs like the network status, like Windows firewall. What ports are open on Windows firewall? Is the service running? Like exceptions, that kind of thing. It grabs IP configuration, the DNS cache, ARP tables, as a machine man in the middle, my guy with a pineapple. The routing table off the machine. That's the first set of information, network information. The second set is it actually grabs information about the local user accounts on the machine. So you can look how many new user accounts have been created. And it actually shows you using some tools from sysinternals, which I know you guys talk about on the show quite a bit. And one of the things I actually hit in my talk was I like using tools that are from like Microsoft owns sysinternals now, and that way I don't have to worry about antivirus picking it up.
Right, you kind of had that problem with a lot of switchblade
stuff. Exactly. So I use PS logged on, which will just real simple command line tool dumps all the users on the machine that are logged on, what time they logged on. The third set of information it gives is I actually go through and calculate the MD5 hashes of the C Windows directory, C Windows System, and C Windows System 32. So
you just compare that against an image that you have that's fresh?
You can get these things, you can actually get the MD5 values from NIST, or you can also get them from Microsoft Technical.
Okay, so it's not just the entire directory, it's every file in the directory.
Exactly.
So then you can go back and say, hey,
yes, there's a rootkit.
Your INI or whatever has been modified somehow.
Correct, yeah. So somebody might have rootkitted one of your, that's where all your, Windows system executables like Paint and iExplore and everything lives. So if somebody's rootkitted it, you're going to have different MD5 values.
I find it beautiful that we've got to use tools from Microsoft so that it doesn't get picked up by antivirus because we're checking a machine that had supposedly been owned.
Right.
Obviously, it's too cute with the antivirus, of course.
Yeah. So, and one of the things I also hit on my talk was in my job, I have to go around to different job sites, places maybe I've never been before. So I can't create exceptions for these tools, So it helps me to kind of keep it vendor neutral, or whatever. So, and that's also why I like to use command line tools because stuff that's already on the machine that nearly any virus isn't going to pick up. So,
right. I mean, so you don't even have to, be the one actually doing this.
Right. Just a user can pop it in, it runs, and it's an incident. It's like a first responder in an incident. It's not going to do your whole investigation for you. I don't feel like an automated tool is going to be as smart as a human analyzing information and making decisions. Well, this is how I need to remediate. So,
but just to get an idea of at what level you need to investigate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of things are happening on the machine? Do I need to close ports in the firewall, certain IP addresses, that kind of thing.
And since it's just a physical object, all you have to do is plug it in, and 30 seconds later.
Right. Yeah. It writes all the information to it's a location of your choosing based on where it looks for a dummy file called u3ir.dat. It's in there's a VB script that it launches, and you don't actually overwrite like any of the anything on the machine, so you don't have to worry about overwriting deleted files, things like that. So
so easy in MCSE could do it.
Exactly.
Awesome.
I have an MCSE, so don't.
Come on,
yeah,
it comes with the territory.
Microsoft Certified Solitaire Expert.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
So, are you going to have these tools available? Do you have them on your
blog?
Right
now, I actually mentioned that at the end of my talk. I've got all this stuff I want to put on a website, just writing stuff, but I don't have it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy if somebody wants to email me. If you guys want to throw it,
of course,
I have a horrible last name.
There.
Throw it on the bottom third.
Great.
Right. So.
Awesome. And we can hit you. We can also hit you up on the Hak5 forums.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's your username there?
It's TCS Tool.
TCS Tool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Russell, it was great talking to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Hey, I appreciate being on. I love the show.
So, Dan, I saw your talk about software-defined radio, and I was hoping you could kind of tell us and some of our viewers about what software-defined radio really is.
Software-defined radio is kind of a new way of looking at radio. It takes a large section of radio spectrum, and you can import it into a computer, the whole thing, and then look at it on an individual basis. So you could take the entire FM broadcast spectrum and then look at each radio broadcast simultaneously.
So that's a lot of data. Obviously, you're going to need something pretty specialized to be able to do that. What's the sort of software and hardware requirements that we would have to do something as crazy as listen to every radio station at once, essentially?
Well, one thing you need is a computer, and just a regular PC computer will fill that. The other thing you need is a piece of acquisition hardware, like some sort of data acquisition card. Those can be very expensive, but a less expensive option is the Universal Software Radio Peripheral, and that's what I'm using. It's kind of goes along with GNU Radio and things like that, and they work together and to get that data into the computer.
So this is a specialized piece of hardware that's designed specifically to be listening to all those frequencies, rather than like you can get a USB radio, tuner for your computer, but that's not really the same thing as this?
No, see, a radio tuner is going to listen to one FM broadcast station, and then it's going to bring the audio in to your computer. What this is doing is actually bringing in the radio signal data into your computer for processing. So you're doing more inside of the computer, and so it's more flexible that way.
So you've got a piece of one example of that hardware here. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, what I've got is a Universal Software Radio Peripheral device, and it comes with a motherboard, and then you buy daughter cards to talk to different parts of the radio spectrum. For example, I have a basic receiver board, and that works up to about 30 megahertz or so, which is all of the AM band and some ham radio bands and things like that. Another one I have is a TV radio receiver, and that can tune in anything from about 80 megahertz to 800 megahertz, which includes everything, including TV, FM radio, and a lot of different other things.
So it sounds like the way that it's built is very modular. You've got a motherboard and then different daughter cards that do different frequencies.
Right.
So are there other daughter boards for like cell phones? Are there daughter boards for, because there's more than just, there's tons of spectrum. I mean,
right. Yeah, absolutely. There's a website, edis.com, and this guy, he sells a lot of these different boards for different parts of the spectrum. He sells one for 2.4, one for some of the cellular bands, it's 900 megahertz, 800 megahertz, and then just kind of up and down from there.
Okay, so you use this piece of hardware to bring it into your computer, but how are you going to deal with all this data? What kind of software are we going to need to listen to all these stations?
Well, that's what you use GNU Radio for, and that's an open source project. You can download it for free, and it's basically just kind of a signal processing framework that you write these simple Python programs, and you kind of connect the blocks together, and you come in raw data, and hopefully what you get out is either some kind of digital information or audio information, or something like that.
So you use this to tune into radio frequencies, or you can use this to retrieve like data over the airwaves or video?
All of that.
Okay, so there's just like different codecs and stuff that are...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just different demodulation schemes are different blocks in GNU Radio.
Okay, so that must be a lot of data. That's got to be pretty taxing on the bus. What are the kind of considerations that we need to keep in mind there?
Well, USB, which is the USRP, is a USB 2 device, so it's limited to something under 480 megabit. Now, it does a lot of down conversion on board. So, say you're looking at a piece of spectrum that's 30 megahertz wide. Well, on board, you can select what exactly you want to look at and only take what you can fit over that USB channel into GNU Radio.
So if I knew, say like I were somewhere where I suspect that there's a device, a proprietary device operating on 27 megahertz, I could tune it to that and then do kind of like the equivalent of Wireshark, just packet sniffing, but for the radio.
Right, exactly. And you could do even better than that if you think it's somewhere around 27 megahertz. You said, I think.
So it can put some targets and start sniffing.
Well, you can look at that band, and then you can say, well, I think it's here, because you see a big peak on your spectrum that you're receiving, and then you start to kind of focus in on it and look at it. So yeah.
So it sounds like you can do a lot of fun stuff with this other than just listening. We were talking about transmission boards. Sounds like there's a lot of hardware involved. If somebody wants to get into this today and just start experimenting and seeing what's in the air beyond what they can just tune to in their AM, FM radio or their ham radio, where should they go and what kind of stuff should they be anticipating to build or buy?
Well, GNUradio.org is a good place to start. It's kind of a meeting place for all the information. It's a wiki, and all that stuff is there. As for the hardware, Edis.com, Edis Research, he builds the USRP, and that is actually kind of expensive. It's a little bit prohibitive. I think the base cost of it is about $700, and then the cards are $100. Start around $100 a piece for the daughter cards. It's a really great thing if you're like a ham radio experimenter, or you're just really interested in it and want to try things out. It's a little bit of an investment, but I feel like it's worthwhile.
Like it could be a lot of fun, especially when it comes to open spectrums like 25, 27 megahertz, and then proprietary protocols, proprietary communication. So rather than just sniffing your 802.11 traffic with our Wi-Fi radios, doing something a little bit more vendor-specific. So I found the value there. At least I have some crazy ideas tinkering around in my head. Anyway, I want to say thank you so much, Dan, for speaking to us. I appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Thank you.
Let's take a moment to thank one of our fabulous sponsors, GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy has it all. .com domain names for as low as $1.99, plus world-class web hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much more. Plus, as a fan of Hak5, you'll get $5 off any order of $30 or more when you check out with the coupon code HAK2. Now, let's check in with 80 of Dual Core and Droops of Hacker Media.
So, 80, we use a lot of your music with Dual Core on the TourCon episode of Hak5, and a lot of people have been asking about you, and I was hoping that maybe you could give us an idea of like the story of how Dual Core came together.
Sure. I used to freestyle when I was in college, and I basically was at Nauticon 3 in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was at this room party, and they had a PA system going, and all of a sudden somebody comes over to the PA, and they're like, "We've got somebody from Cincinnati here that can freestyle," and I'm like, cool. Who else from here, who else from Cincinnati can freestyle? And I'm expecting to meet some new people, and they come and grab me, and they're like, "Come on, man, come on." And I was like, "Oh, hey." So me and one of my friends who's a sysadmin, me and Remy, we're just freestyling, we're having fun, and I had met this producer online on an underground hip-hop forum, which turned out to be C64, and he said, "Hey, I want to do an album with you," and I said, "Cool, this is what I want to do. This is what I do every day, nerdy stuff. Let's make an album about nerdy stuff." And he said, "Hey, I know you're a good rapper. Let's do it." And that was the story of Dual Core.
So would you define your style as nerdcore?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, really, whatever people want to call it is fine, because to me that's just a label, right? So we all did Shakespeare in high school. You know, a rose is a rose, etc. If somebody wants to call it something different, that's fine. I think it's nerdcore, but whatever everybody else interprets as that is fine.
Well, how do you think nerdcore relates to hacker culture?
I think it's pretty deeply intertwined in most cases. A lot of nerdcore artists that I hear have pretty strong technical ties. You know, they reference nerdy stuff that's computer related.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a good tie to hacker culture. You know, hacker culture is just finding new ways to do different things or finding new applications for different stuff that's already been invented. And so I think that's really what a lot of nerdcore is. And I think, therefore, there's a very concentrated tie or a very strong tie to it.
Sweet. So this is my third time seeing you in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
You seem to be at every conference. Are you on tour? What's going on?
I don't know. I really don't have a strong definition for tour. I'm a normal guy. You know, I go to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I do regular security stuff. But I guess if you wanted to consider a tour, you could. We just play a lot of hacker conferences, and you know, it's awesome that people like our music, and I'm just here having fun.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. So what's on the horizon? You've got 3 albums out now. What's next for Dual Core?
Hard to say. We're working on our 4th album, but we want to do something that's different. So we definitely want to release a 4th album that has a lot of good audio material, but we want to add something extra, and we're not sure what that is. So we're thinking like a DVD on top of the audio album, but we're still in the planning stages.
You want to get some feedback?
Please.
Yeah.
If you have ideas,
we're going to hit you up.
Email us. dualcoremusic@gmail.com.
You guys are all over MySpace and all the socials?
Yep, myspace.com/dualcoremusic, flickr.com/dualcoremusic, youtube.com/dualcoremusic,
right.
dualcoremusic.com. Yeah, you know, we're very consistent.
Sweet. So maybe you could do some little freestyle? Just some Hak5 freestyle maybe?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I could freestyle. I could freestyle a little bit and it's live. And y'all see me up in here rapping on Hak5. One time from my mind, what I say I raise to heaven. Y'all see me on episode 407. That's where we at when I spit the ill flow. Y'all see me out there in California, San Diego.
So Droops, you are one of the guys behind Hacker Media, and I was hoping you could maybe tell me about what Hacker Media is and how that kind of came about.
Well, there was a lot of, well, before it was called podcasts, but internet radio shows that people were putting out, and there was no repository like iTunes or Hacker Media or anything to find these things. So a guy named Kizzle started a WordPress blog, and he would host shows and post about them so that people could find out more information about them. And as the site's grown, we inherited it, and it's all based on RSS feeds right now, and we try to filter the content somewhat, that it's not shows that are going all the time out promoting, so we can promote the underdog, as it would be, the new starting out show.
Exactly.
The guys,
you know, push.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find it an invaluable resource for a lot of these little niche within the hacker space, but the niche the shows.
Yeah, the stuff that's not on iTunes, and usually we have to convince people to make an RSS feed so that we can get information about their shows.
So what's new with Hacker Media? Where is that kind of evolving to?
Well, we're working on a lot of things to grow the site. We get pretty good traffic for a little site that aggregates podcast feeds. Mm-hmm. But we're working on adding a magazine section, or a zine, however, section for cons. We have a featured show that we're trying to change a lot more when something really cool single comes out. We're working on taking shows from YouTube and Vimeo that people are just putting their shows there and hosting them there. We're working on a nerdcore music section.
Okay, so it sounds like you're grabbing all
we're
of the
trying to grab everything
parts
that
of the nerdcore culture, the hacker culture, and aggregate.
And see,
them.
like the most important thing about Hacker Media is not that it has these shows for us to find now, it has these shows for us to find later.
Right, there's been a lot of shows just in Hacker Media in the last 3 years that have come and then they're gone, and then if they're not hosting anymore, where are they?
They're on textfiles.com, or they're on people's computers.
Or archive.org. So you're aggregating that and trying to maintain that archive so that we have that history of that.
Well, we have a private archive that we try to download every show and put on.
Okay.
So that we can actually do that one day.
So you've got another project going on. It's kind of like NPR, but for hackers.
Kind of.
You want to tell me about what that is?
Yeah, we have a show called Hacker Public Radio.
How does that work?
Well, we have no hosts. People send us content, and they don't send it to us every day. Like, you wouldn't make 3 shows and send them to us. You'd make a show like every month, or every 2 months, or once a year, or just once. But it's something you thought was really, really cool. So if you think it's really cool and it's your 1 month cool thing, then other people are probably gonna think it's neat too. So every day you can listen to someone else's 1 month cool thing.
That's so cool. So if you're passionate about something, you got some buddies, you get on Skype and you record it, but you're not going to take the investment of actually building a show. You just got a one-off cool thing that you think the world should know about.
And it's a really good way to syndicate your one-off thing.
Yeah.
And it's
you guys are at like 200 and 250 some odd episodes.
yeah,
now.
we've got a
You've been
bunch
going
of
on
them. Well,
for quite a
we
while
combined a bunch of shows. Like TWT Radio had 300 shows or 200 shows or some number, and Benrev Radio had several hundred shows.
So why not aggregate it?
And a lot of the people that are our hosts have their own show. So there's thousands of, shows that have been made that have come into this.
Okay, so if people want to find more hacker media or want to have like an awesome idea that they just want to do a one-off, like their monthly cool thing, where can they get involved in that kind of stuff?
Hacker Media is hackermedia.org, and Hacker Public Radio is hackerpublicradio.org.
And they just sign up to record, or just send in a wave?
Just send it in, and
Awesome.
Enigma is the admin of the site, and he goes through it and make sure it sounds okay, but we don't edit for content because something I like is maybe not the same thing you like.
Sounds great. I love the idea. Well, thanks so much for talking about those, Droops.
Yes, sir.
We want to thank Netflix for sponsoring this episode of Hak5. With Netflix, you can rent over 90,000 titles online, including lots of Blu-ray titles, with free shipping both ways to your home. They now have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen in just one business day. The Netflix plans start from $4.99. As a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week free trial membership at www.netflix.com/Hak5. Remember to type the www. It's very important when using the code. Next up, let's check in with Adrian Crenchaw. You may know him better as Irongeek.
So Irongeek, I've seen you around the Hak5 forums, just about every forum possible in the hacker world, and I just kind of want to know, what is it exactly that you do?
Basically, I take what other people have created, give them full credit for it, but try to develop the documentation they don't necessarily. There's a lot of people who are hellaciously better developers than I am. I suck at development. However, people seem to understand what I write and what I do in video form. So what I do is I take what they produce, try to understand it myself, digest it, and regurgitate it as something I think that most people is easier to understand. And since a lot of stuff is stuff that I've just recently learned myself, I have this pet theory that the best person to teach something to someone else is someone who's just learned it themselves. For instance, if you've been a C++ programmer for the last 20 years, there's things that you're going to take for granted that you're not going to be able to introduce to a brand new programmer because you're just going to go right over their head. However, if you just learn the material yourself, you know all the common pitfalls that someone might have, and so you know what to tell them so they can get up to your level. And I've met a whole lot of people who I've started off doing stuff, and then I go talk to them later on, and I'm like, okay, you know way more than I do. Like Operator, I started off doing some EtherCAT filters. I think he did some Google searching on it, and he always knows more about EtherCAT filters than I do. I just happen to, get them started, and then they take it and they run with it.
So how long have you been doing this?
Oh, I bought the site domain name back in like 2004. At one time I had a private site someplace else, about 2002. I messed around with a package called Cam Studio, and it was open source. And
Oh, I used that. In fact, I used it all throughout the first season of Hak5, and then there was a Cam Studio that got bought by it.
Yes.
There was another one that had the same name, but it wasn't open source. Anyway, the open source one is awesome.
yes,
I agree.
someone's trying to start the development on it.
Great.
But I saw that and I was like, this is back in like 2002 or something. And I was like, I can make a little screencast of this. And they were really rinky-dink things to start with. And then I watched that for a while, and I know people have mixed feelings about Kevin Rose. Then I'd stopped doing it for a while. Then I saw Kevin Rose start doing the broken. I was like, oh, what the hell? I think I'll start
This
my
hacker
thing up
media
again.
thing
Yeah.
seems to be working.
And then I was interested in what other people were doing, like hacker media stuff. That's how I found you guys and several other video podcasts. And I got hooked up with Infomonicon and Droops' group and all that. And then I started going to these conventions and so forth.
So were you a hacker at heart, or a programmer? I mean, where was your professional background before this?
To tell you the truth, I'm basically a help desk monkey. I am a
really?
glorified help desk monkey who has a website on the side that makes a little bit of money, but it's more of a hobby at this point. But I have a little excess time on my hand, and I like to learn stuff and then teach other people. My current career goal is to become a teacher that teaches information security concepts to people.
That's awesome. So you were here at Phreaknic talking about keyloggers.
Yes.
Keyloggers are fun. Now, you're not just talking about those software ones that everybody seems to program. That's the first thing they do when they learn
Yes.
Visual C++.
I've messed around with those, and the problem with most software keyloggers, at least the ones that are free for monitoring, most AVs are going to pick them up.
Right.
So I was reading about all these different hardware keyloggers, and I'd seen them advertised on ThinkGeek and other places, and I always wanted to play with them, but I really couldn't justify dropping $100 or more on one. Some of these ones are like $300, but I started getting a lot of traffic to my website. Well, I told people, I have this much traffic, I'd like to get a review unit. Will you send it to me?
Yeah.
And they would send it to me. So I started testing them, and I was really curious. The thing they sell them on is that they're completely undetectable. However,
has that really been the case?
Well, not 100%, because those weird, at least with the PS2 ones, haven't found the way. The USB ones, sometimes odd vendor IDs will show up on the device manager when you plug it in. Use that like USB view in Linux, or there's a USB version for Windows. Nearsoft's USB D view is also great. And some of them will show up as like hub devices, so that'll give you an idea. Sometimes they'll cause weird effects on the USB bus where other things hooked in line of them will not work, like other hubs, other mass storage media, odd things like that. And if you ever put them in recover mode, they seem to have non-valid vendor IDs sometimes, or ones I can't at least look up.
Okay, so you found some ways to, by software, identify these. I mean,
none of it's 100% practical. None of it's as good as actually physically looking. But I found a few things that should show some promise as far as detecting them.
Really? For example?
Well, if someone's recovered on the same machine that they were logging on, you could do a search through the registry for vendor IDs. And when you see certain vendor IDs, like I believe it was I'm trying to remember which one it was, but I think it might have been Keyghost. If you saw 8880 hexadecimals of vendor ID, I haven't found who that belongs to, and the only times I've seen it ever occur is with Keyghost keyloggers. So that might be a quick idea that if you do something like, well, I'm coming from mostly a Windows world, sorry guys, but you can do the same thing in Linux. Write a script, searches through all the machines on your network. If anybody has this particular vendor ID logged as a USB device that's connected to the machine, you may want to go investigate it. But that's only of use if the person has recovered the keystrokes on the same machine they were logging. If they decide to take it home with them, you're kind of out of luck.
And you were even talking about some more sophisticated ones, and you're talking about like keyloggers that actually use Bluetooth.
Yeah, there was one person, I don't remember the exact site, but I'm sure you can look up, I'll have my show notes up.
Show notes?
Yes.
Why not?
My slides up before long, probably as soon as I get home, but they had this Bluetooth-based hardware keylogger. So essentially, you'd have to have physical access to the box when you're going to install it. But thereafter, you just have to cruise by with like a Bluetooth phone
or something.
Grab the log, keep going.
Great.
And I know Keylog is also developing something along those lines. They said they're not using Bluetooth. What they're going to use it to maintain the power level you need, I'm not sure. But let's talk about me getting a review unit. So
it sounds like you're getting into a lot more of the hardware stuff.
Yes.
Is that the future that Irongeek is taking? I mean, what are you looking at now?
Well, the next things I really want to mess around with, and this bears in mind that I have to find someone living to let me play with their equipment. I mean, I have access mostly, this is like a zero budget operation. I need to find someone that lets me have access to the video over IP systems for security monitoring. Okay. In my mind, it has to seem like an incredibly bad idea. TCP/IP was kind of designed for reliability and routing around problems, not necessarily for security. But to use one in a security cam, I'm curious how easy it would be to man the middle it, replace the video stream with something else.
I love this idea.
I imagine it's going to be fairly easy on an IP network. If nothing else, just block it, because it's so easy to DOS an IP-based network if you can get on the same local area LAN as them. If nothing else.
Yeah. Sounds, well, I noticed. Well, it sounds very, very Hollywood, and I like that idea. So where can people go to check out more of your research and hopefully upcoming embedded devices stuff?
Well, on the video stuff, video camera stuff, nothing as of yet, but all my research is on Irongeek.com.
Awesome. Irongeek, as always, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for spending some time here.
As our visit to Phreaknic comes to a close, we've got to say thanks to the goons, staff, and Skydog for putting on such a great con. Some highlights that you'll find in this episode's supplemental material include Telco Bomb's portable rave party backpack and an interview with Scott Moulton on how recent legislation and private investigators are impacting the computer forensics industry. We hope to see you at the next Phreaknic, so be sure to stay tuned to Phreaknic.info, and we'll be back next week in studio, so until then, trust your technolust.
So Droops, you're one of the guys behind that really creepy man. I don't know if I can do this now.
One of the great things about the Days Inn in Tennessee are built-in bottle openers right on the sink. So we can just, you know, come down here and there you go. So completely hacker-friendly, geek-friendly, and bottle openers in every room. Damn Skippy.
So Droops, you're one of the guys involved in hacker media. Okay. Sorry. Let's go.
Yay! I got one. Woo! Yeah, I'm out.
How many did you get?
4.
How many did I get?
0.